Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all of you that are here with us. Join us today in our public meeting online, and hopefully this will be the last online meeting only for this year and for the rest of our times. Hopefully we can have you all here next Monday with us in our Sunday, next Sunday, thank you, Carol, being here with us for our public meeting in person. Yay, we are going to be reopening on March 6th, which will be Sunday. We are going to provide only, for now, Sunday's meeting in person that will be resumed for here in our FSS location. Monday's public meeting we are still be doing online, and we are going to be providing more updates later on when our Monday's public meeting will be resumed. Another important thing that we'd like to, or information that we'd like to provide, is that FSS will not be providing Spiritist education for children on Sundays public meeting as we used to do before the pandemic. We are short in volunteering, so we are also requesting that if you would like to join us as a volunteer workers here in our FSS, you are more than welcome. And we are providing more information. You can contact us through our social medias or through our contact emails, information through our website. Please reach out to us. We are going to provide more information if you need. And we hope to see all of you here with us together next Sunday, March 6th. This is the great news that I'm so happy to provide this Sunday. This will be our last Sunday online only, hopefully. Let's keep our hearts optimistic and our hope that we are gonna be here. And that's our first reminder for our week here. And so today we are going to be talking about blessed are the peacemakers. The word's peace begins with me. So let's start with our harmonization text. And the text that we have chosen is the text from the book Everlasting Words, my translation, written by Francisco Cândido Xavier, by Emmanuel. And the text number is the number 77, and the title is Pacify Always. The text was inspired by the verse of Matthew chapter 5 verse 9, where it says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." No matter how many pains afflict your soul, calm yourself in prayer and pacify the flames of your own fight. If someone hurts you, pacify by excusing him. If someone slanders you, pacify by serving. If someone insults you, pacify by understanding. If someone irritates you, pacify by silencing. Forgiveness and work, understanding and humility are the inarticulate voices of your own defense. Blows and blows are wounds and more wounds. Violence with violence add up to madness. Do not raise your arm to beat, nor open your mouth to humiliate. In face of every disturbance, be silent and wait, always helping. Time seasons the green fruit, changes the features of the swarm, softens the rock, and covers the withered branch with the new flowers. Censorship is a climate of bitterness, and bitterness is the beginning of a curse. Whatever you are, pacify. Whatever the offense, pacify. And you will finally realize that world peace is God's gift. Begins with you. So let's pray. Master Jesus, God, our Father in heaven, we are here once again to reflect upon Jesus' teachings. In this moment that we are facing another war in earth, we raise our thoughts and our heart to you, O God, to you, our Master Jesus, to help us to understand your teachings about being peacemakers, about being meek. Please, Jesus, help us, inspire us in this moment to understand your words, to reflect upon them in our own lives, in our acts, and help us, bringing us the strength enough to be brave enough to develop peace in ourselves. Help us to be the peacemakers of tomorrow and the meek of today. Thank you for this last opportunity to be here among friends, among hearts that are tuned in the same objective: to be better, to be closer to God, more and more. Thank you again for this opportunity that we are going to get together to reflect upon your teachings, about your teachings, Master Jesus. That we can understand better and become better a little bit more today. So be it. Alright then, thank you very much, Anna Kaheti, Victor, and Carol. Carol is special because she's here with me today. Thank you, my friend. And thank you for everyone that is here with me today. We're going to be reflecting about this teaching of Jesus that we can find in the Sermon on the Mount, Blessed are the Peacemakers. We thought that would be very timing to bring this topic today, as we are facing another war on our planet between our brothers and sisters in Russia and Ukraine. I'm sure that we all praying for them to be reconciliating, to stop this war. But what we can do ourselves, what we can do now in order to help them, besides praying. Well, as Jesus had taught us to be peacemakers, and all his teachings, he's telling us that the peace and the love and harmony that we want to see in this world begins within ourselves. And when he said, and what he said that we can understand his teachings, when he said the realm of God will be developing, needs to be developing inside of yourselves. So then we will be able to make this world a little bit better today, now. So to start our reflections upon this topic today, I would like to bring this short story about Buddha. So this story says that Buddha was meditating, concentrated, sitting there and meditating, and then someone got closer to him and spit in his face. So Buddha opens his eyes calmly. He sees his aggressor. He looks at the people around him. Everybody's looking at him, waiting to see how he would react towards his aggressor. He stands up, he looks at his aggressor's eyes, and he says, "Thank you, my brother, for teaching me, for showing me there is no anger inside of me. There is no hatred inside of me." So this is a good example that how a peacemaker, how is an example of a meek person, a calm person, someone that was able to develop this beautiful virtue of meekness and peace inside of himself. A good example for us to follow. And we are going to be reflecting upon what is the difference between meek and peacemaker, meekness and peacemakers. How can I build up this virtue inside of me? And how some leaders that we had in the humankind history that showed us this virtue, besides Buddha that we just brought here. Who is more besides Buddha, Jesus, and other missionaries that we had towards our history that were able to show us that it's possible being a peacemaker regardless what we're facing in our lives? So before we start those reflections, just would like to provide some information about the bibliography that we had researched about this topic. We got from the Gospel According to Spiritism, Chapter 9, and the Spirit's book from Allan Kardec. The information and the text of the Gospel of Matthew that we're going to be bringing here too, regarding peacemakers and blessed, and the well adventures from the Bible, and also this book of the Sublime Prayer of San Francisco of Assisi from Alírio Cerqueira Filho from the Projeto Spiritizar project from Brazil, which provide us a new view, a new perspective, how we can understand this prayer. So beautiful. But sometimes we don't have the real understanding about what San Francisco of Assisi is talking about, which type of peace and love and forgiveness that he is bringing in his prayer to Lord. And some key points that we'd like to reflect upon today. The first one would be, what is my understanding about blessed are the meek and the peacemakers? what do I know about this topic, about this well adventure provided by Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount? The next, what is the importance to exercise those virtues in my life? The virtues of meekness and the virtue of peace. And what does it mean to be meek and peaceful? How do I develop these virtues in my life, within myself? And do I feel that this is important for my life, and how my life will be better as a result of developing them? So please keep those questions on your mind, bear with me, and we're going to be talking more about each of those topics and trying to shed more lights into them. So let's start with another teaching from Jesus, where he says, "Peace I have, or peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." John chapter 14, verse 27. Let's reflect a little bit about this teaching of Jesus. So when Jesus says, "Peace I leave with you, and my peace I give you," which type of peace? It's his own peace that he had left with us, with his disciples? What we can understand about this when he says, "Peace I give you"? Well, reflecting that not only, but Jesus had left with us all his teachings that he had demonstrated in all his life when he was with us, towards his behavior, his teachings, his acts, his thoughts, everything that he shared with his disciples, and it's preserved in the Bible, in the Gospel according to Spiritism, in all the teachings that we can research about his life. His teachings is this peace. On the question 625 from the Spirit's book, Kardec says that Jesus, he is the most perfect model, and his doctrine is the purest expression of divine law. And Jesus was provided to us by God as a model and guide for the humankind. So then we understand that his peace is embedded or is included in all his teachings, which is the divine laws, which is the expression of the divine laws. So in order to have his peace, to observe his peace, we are invited to learn more about his teachings, to learn more about the divine laws in order to comply with them, developing the virtues that all the divine laws required from us, and then we are able to gradually, slowly building up all the virtues in our hearts. And he says, "I do not give you as the world gives." Well, his teachings is about our evolved process. It's about us as immortal spirits, and how the world sees us. Materialistic point of view for only. The world sees us as people that are living just this life and must enjoy as much as possible, like that we just live once and we need to do and to try to get more and more pleasure, so you'll be happy, because this is just one life, and that's it. So the doctrine of the Spiritism doctrine teaches us about reincarnation. So we all know that we are here temporarily, but we came from the spiritual life, from the spiritual world, and to there we are gonna be coming back soon. So during this temporary time, this is short time that we're gonna be here, we are invited to do as much effort as possible in order to develop two things: knowledge and love. We are here to develop love inside of us, so we are be able to spread love whatever we are, and knowledge about everything, about the truth, about the divine laws. So then we are going to be closer and closer to God, and we are going to be getting closer to our happiness, to the peace inside of us. This is not what it says. It says the question 115 from the Spirit's book, where there the benevolent spirits provide us all the information how our evolution process happens, and then when we are in this process of developing these virtues inside of us, our hearts are not going to be troubled, and you're not going to be afraid, regardless anything that is happening around us in the world, in our personal lives, regardless anything. We feel the faith, the strong faith inside of us. We are going to know that Jesus and God are on control of everything that happens in our planet, in our lives, in the humankind, and we are going to feel secure, and we are going to feel this peace inside us. And having all this knowledge, having this understanding about our evolution process, we are going to start understand a little bit better what Saint Francis of Assisi means with becoming an instrument of Lord's peace. When he says, "Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, may I bring love. Where there is offense, may I bring forgiveness." And so on and so forth. So how this process starts, how can we become an instrument of Lord's peace? When we make this decision to comply with the divine laws in our conscience and develop the virtues. When we choose love, when we make the good choices. So we are going to see that make an instrument of your peace is a process that I am invited to develop within myself. Before I read this book, The Sublime Prayer of St. Francis of Assisi, I thought that this prayer, beautiful prayer that there are so many songs are made out of this prayer. It's so beautiful. It so brings us so much comfort and peace. But what does it mean really? I didn't have the correct understanding about it. I thought it was I should bring love where I see there is violence or hatred. I should bring some forgiveness, talk to people that have some problems, conflicts between them, so I should go there and say, hey, you need to forgive each other yourselves. So I thought it was something that was outside of me. And then I learned that everything that St. Francis says there, it's about ourselves. Where is hatred inside of me? Shall I bring some love? Where there is some offense inside of me, should I bring some forgiveness? Should I forgive myself? Yes. I should forgive myself for the mistakes, for the bad choices that I had made, and now I am, as a result, I am having some troubles in my life. I am an apprentice. I'm learning, so I'm supposed to commit some mistakes. It's natural because I was created simple and ignorant, or without knowing. And I am invited through all the existences that I am coming through to develop a little bit, little by little, more and more virtues, more and more knowledge. So I'll become more wise and I will do better choices in the future. So I should forgive myself. I should forgive others. And that's what this prayer means, that we should bring light where is darkness inside of us. The peace of Jesus, it's a process. It's not something that I'm gonna develop overnight. I'm not gonna become a peacemaker by tomorrow, just because the world needs that I be a peacemaker. But I can become a little bit more calm, more patient, more tolerant today. And then I will be gradually becoming this instrument of Lord's peace in the world. And this process is built up through 3 actions. First, self-knowledge. When I observe myself, as Jesus asked us to do, watch and pray, when I do this to myself, observing all the feelings that comes out when I'm facing or I'm experiencing some challenges, circumstances in my life, when I am aware of this feeling, I am becoming a little bit more, I'm becoming irritated by this. Like Emmanuel said in his text in the beginning, if someone insults me, what I should do? I should react, or I should act like Buddha did. Should be a little bit more patient. I'm gonna make some efforts to calm down myself, do a deep breathing, and okay, I'm gonna try to be more tolerant here. And then I'm making more efforts, I'm doing the self-control, and then I will be acting towards my self-transformation. That's the process. It's not magical. It's not something that I'm going to do right now, but it's something that I can do a little by little, every single day, every single moment in my life. And as Luis had brought in his talks other days about patience, we have several opportunities to be patient through one day only. So we have many circumstances where we can exercise this virtue. And this is the beginning of being serenity, of being calm, of being meek. So when we think about that, we will be doing what St. Francis says here, being an instrument of Lord's peace, bringing love where is hatred, impatience, irritation, and bring forgiveness where we didn't act accordingly with the divine laws, and forgiving others because we know how to forgive ourselves. So we are then being more indulgent to our brothers and sisters. And we have this, we still have this duality inside of ourselves. Like in nature, we see night and day, we see life and death, we have everything in life is this polarity, is this duality. So inside of us, we still have darkness, yes, we still have lots or many imperfections, that's natural, but we also have all the potentials, all the seeds of love, of peace, of harmony that are there sitting and waiting for us just to reach out to ourselves, just to make silence around us, inside of us, to bring them out, to develop them, to nurture them, to make them grow and becoming this big tree full of true fruit and flowers and shadow to ourselves and to everyone that gets closer, that gravitates in our own life. And that's not for that reason that Jesus brings in the Sermon of the Mountain. First, blessed are the meek. And in the verse 9, he is bringing the same chapter 5 in the Sermon of the Mountain. Blessed are the peacemakers. He brings first meekness, because we cannot be a peacemaker if we don't make peace inside of us. And he also taught us about all these points of being more patient, not react to any insults or anything that happens in our lives, in our daily routine. And he taught us this on Matthew chapter 5, verse 21 to 22, when he said, "Whosoever is angry with his brother without cause shall be in danger of the judgment." He also said that, he also brings in the same chapter that in his time there was an expression amongst the Hebrews they used a lot. They used to say haka and spitting and turning their head against someone that they disagree with. And this raka expression means a worthless person. So they used to do that, and Jesus condemned that because he says that any type of anger or discourteous expression towards others is something very serious, because we know that the divine laws, as the question 621 in the Spirit's book says, it's on our conscience. So everything that we do, regardless if it's little or if it's big, it's engraved in our conscience, and we are. And our conscience is always telling us that we are not acting according with the divine laws. And then that's the reason that Jesus brought this up to us. Because like Allan Kardec explains in the same chapter, he says that every offensive word expresses a sentiment that is contrary to the laws of love and charity, which preside over all human relationships, and between them, these laws maintain cordiality and union. If we remain hate and animosity sentiments between us, we are instead providing peace and harmony and love. We are in fraternity. We are decimating violence. So, in a short, resume this or sum up these teachings, he says that because next to humility before God or before the divine laws in our conscience, charity is to your neighbor is the first law of all Christians. So if we entitle ourselves as Christians, that the charity law is our first law that we should be looking at, trying to comply with in every single moment in our lives. And Kardec says that by these maxims, Jesus makes meekness, moderation, docility, affability, and patience a law. All this is included in the law of love, just, and charity that we are invited to comply with. And also, Emmanuel expressed these little things that happens in our lives when he tells us about pacify always, because if someone insults us, how can we pacify ourselves? By understanding that person might be sick, might be facing some struggles in their lives. That's the reason that makes them discourteous, angry, irritated. And we are invited to understand. If someone irritates us, pacify by silence. And sometimes that's the best resource that we have. Sometimes the silence says more than any words. This was something that Jesus also exemplified to us when he was in front of Pilate. When Pilate asked him what it was the truth, and Jesus only stared at him, didn't say any word. The silence of Jesus presented much more, because he had the understanding that Pilate wouldn't understand what was the divine laws in that moment. So Emmanuel says to us too that blows and blows are wounds and more wounds. When we react towards an insult, when we respond in the same level to something that hurts us, we create more wounds. We don't exterminate, or we don't stop a fire putting more gasoline on it. So violence add up to madness. So only keeping peace in us, we can say that we'll be peacemakers. In the humankind, we had great examples of peacemakers, that we can call them the peace sowers. The first one, the greatest overall, Jesus Christ, that provide all these teachings, all this knowledge to all the missionaries that came after him. More recent ones, I would like to bring Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Jr., Nelson Mandela, and Desmond Tutu. There are many other ones, like Mother Teresa, as Dalai Lama, that is still here with us. There are Krishna, Buddha. In our country, we can bring Francisco Cândido Xavier and Divaldo Pereira Franco that are still there. And we had others, Spiritist missionaries like Bezerra de Menezes, Eurípides Barçanufo, so many others, and some others that we even know their names, but they are doing what they need to do in order to become a peacemakers or meekness within their family, because this is the main place, or our priority in this life is for us to bring peace whatever we are first, among our family, our friends, all the closer ones that we have in our lives. But I would like to touch a little bit more about why did I bring both these four names all together: Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, and Desmond Tutu. They are all type of connected to each other. They are linked to each other in the human history. So starting with Gandhi, which was an Indian lawyer that was an activist, a non-violent activist that brought the independence to his country, India, from the British rule. And he inspired lots of other movements for rights, for civil rights and freedom across the world. He, besides being this leader, this non-violent leader, he demonstrated that in many occasions in his life. However, I would like to bring one fact that where he demonstrated that so clearly. So he was punched in his face by a British soldier, and he fell down. He stands up, he looks at the soldier, and the soldier gives him another punch. He falls down again. He stands up calmly. He looks to the soldier in his eyes, and the soldier says, "Who had taught you to be so coward, so coward?" And then Gandhi look at him and says, "The man that is engraved in this cross in your chest." In that moment, the soldier touches his cross, his crucifix, in his pendant in his neck, and he comes to his sense, and thinks, which type of Christian I'm becoming. So in that moment, he starts crying. So Gandhi taught him to be a Christian, and Gandhi, as a Hindu, taught him how to be a good Christian. And inspired by Gandhi about his non-violent activism, Martin Luther King started the civil rights freedom for colored people in the United States. He was an African American church, and we have talked about this, about his life and his teachings, when Victor brought in his one of his lectures about Martin Luther King. And he had brought so many knowledge and faith that one day his country will become a just country for all its citizens, doesn't matter, regardless the color of their skin. And his speech, memorable and remarkable speech of "I have a dream." Jimmy Carter was the president that gave a post-mortem medal to Martin Luther King, and he said in his speech that Martin Luther King Jr. was the conscience of his generation. He gazed upon the great wall of segregation and saw that the power of love could bring it down. He was a non-violent activist, and he was able to stop the racial prejudice against colored people. Inspired by him, Nelson Mandela, seeing the segregation that the apartheid law in his country, South Africa, was doing with his people, He, as an anti-apartheid revolutionary, came and started a movement, a non-violent movement against that law. He spent more than 27 years in prison, but later on he became a first South African black president in South Africa. And with this, inspired by this, his movement, a non-violent movement, Desmond Tutu, which was, and it is actually, because he's still alive, as an Anglican priest, or actually bishop, helped him to raise this non-violent movement in his country as well, helping Mandela after he's become president and before. And one of the protests or the march that the bishop, the Desmond Tutu led in his country, there was a huge crowd, people were following him, and he stands up when he saw many soldiers around, ready to stop the protests if there is any violent movement with weapons, and could end up in lots of deaths. He stands up and he says, anyone here that had the intention of react violently against the soldiers, please come back to your homes. We are here for a non-violent protest to bring our awareness about this apartheid law. And then he looked at the soldiers and said to them, and you guys, you all, you have already lost. You know why? Because the universal law, which is God's law, is love and justice. So for that reason only, because it's moral, and you are here fighting against something that is immoral, you have already lost. He that didn't have all this knowledge about the divine laws brought up this universal law about the love and the peace and the harmony between all of us. So he won for that movement and for being a non-violent activist through all these years in his country. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1984. So we can see here that those peace sowers were there's always here, helping us to understand what does it mean being a peacemakers. It's not being just watching things that are not just and not doing anything. Peacemakers, or any virtue, are active. We are invited to do something. We are invited to act towards. If you want to have peace, we are invited to make peace. And those all are good sources, are great sources for us to understand what is fight, but not with the weapons of hatred, but the weapons of love, the weapons of peace. Whoever goes on the social media with the reason of defending any cause, but with hate, with angry, they are not being a peacemaker. They are not being children of God. Remember that the peacemakers will call God's children. When we have peace inside of us, we only demonstrate love and peace. Whatever we are defending, whatever the cause that we are defending. And then we came to think about this war. Is this what we can learn from this? Why God permits this happens? Is still happening, because many people are asking that right now. Why does God permit? And the question 743, when he said that will wars ever end on earth? He asked that after the Second World War, and he get as response from the benevolent spirits saying, yes, this is very good. It's good to know that, yes, the earth, the wars will end on earth. But when human beings understand justice and practice God's law, only then will all men and women be brothers and sisters. So, here is everything that we have been talking about, to practice God's law, which is charity, love, and justice. And we have underlined here the word justice. What does it mean? Jesus has also taught us about justice when he said, what you want for you, do for your brother, to your neighbors. And it's great how Kardec spanned this teaching in this question. Right after this question, in the Spirit's book, Kardec gave us great instructions about it, when he says that the true measure of justice is, in fact, wanting for others what you would want for yourself. So, this is what Jesus said to us. Do to others what you want that others do to you. Alright, but sometimes we invert this a little bit. And he states this here when he says, merely wanting for yourself or for me what you would want for others is not exactly the same thing. Sometimes I want for me what I would want for others. Like I put myself first. And that's not the same thing. Because this meaning that I'm having a kind of selfish there, because I'm thinking about myself first. And Jesus asked us to do to others what you would like that others do to you. So it's unnatural to wish harm upon yourself. So I don't want to be hurt. So if we use our personal desires as the guide for our behavior towards our neighbors, we would never wish anything but good upon them. Because when I feel hurt by someone and I wish that someone be hurt too, or I want something bad happens to another person, I am actually not doing what Jesus taught me to do. Because it's unnatural, like Kardec said, that I want something harm for myself. So if I want to be happy, I wish happy to others. I want that everybody being happy, because I cannot be happy by myself. So, and he keeps saying that universally, human beings have always sought to enforce their personal rights. So, universally, human beings have always seek for enforce their personal rights, while the unique factor of Christianity is the application of personal right as the basis for our neighbor's rights. So my right stops when starts my neighbor's rights. Everybody is the same on God's view. We are all children of God, and we all deserve the same happiness. So, if we have this knowledge or this view that we are here temporarily, and anything that we have, material things, even our own body, we are not going to be able to take with us, because that's the thing, that's a certainty. We are not going to be here forever. The day that we leave, everything stays. So why should I be wanting to what being better in terms of power or money or anything in the treatment of my brother. Something for us, some food for our thoughts, something that we should think about what is happening in the world now, why this war is happening, which type of justice is happening there, and what we can learn from that in our own lives, how we are acting in our daily days. And then again, the words peace begins with me. And like Demon Tutu says, do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. If I light up one candle here, and any one of us, all the human beings light up a little candle, we will be able to light up the world. But everything starts, like Michael Jackson used to say, with the man in the mirror, with myself. So then we'll be able to become a peacemakers when we light up our own light inside of us. And this is developed by, first of all, being apprentice, developing the virtue of apprentice feeling. We are here to learn. So with this feeling of apprentice, we start developing the meekness, because every student, when he goes to the school, first moment, he's meek, because he's be there to learn. Humbleness and kindness. Those are the little virtues that we can start in our daily days. They're actually not little, they are big, they are the base, and the love are the base, are the fundamental of all the other virtues that we're gonna develop through our immortal life. So then we understand the difference between meekness and peacemakers. We hopefully could understand that our lives will become easier, like Jesus' yoke. That is ease and his burden is light. And gradually, day by day, we are going to become more and more meekness and become more and more peacemakers. And to finish, I would like to bring this other teachings of Jesus that it's important for us to remember. Love for enemies. He had taught us that you have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemies. That was taught by the first revelation by Moses. And then he says, but I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Matthew 5, chapter 43 to 48. So that's what Jesus asked us, to be perfect as God is perfect. Of course, we know that we are not going to be perfect as God, but we should, and we are invited to become more and more perfect and develop the virtues of the peace and love within ourselves, and starting our evolution process as the lovely choice that we could make for ourselves, because we know that every choice that we make brings a consequence. So how we are going to become better if we don't start becoming better to ourselves? And that means become better to anybody, regardless who is in our life. Because if God permits that something happens in our lives, it's for a purpose. The purpose of learning. The purpose that we become better and better. Loving our enemies is not an easy task. It's not. But we are invited to develop a little bit, to make a little effort day by day, with persistent, with discipline, with perseverance, and day by day we're going to build it up. More and more patience, more and more tolerance, more and more love towards our neighbors. Doesn't matter who is our neighbor. Doesn't matter who is our neighbors. So that's my reflections today. I'm so sorry I passed too much. Yeah, thank you everyone for being here with us. Let's finish our reflections. And we don't have any questions and any comments. Do you have anything? No? Thank you. So let's finish them with our final prayer. Thank you once again, Master Jesus, God, our Heavenly Father, for allowing us to be here together, talking about those teachings, the everlasting words that we are invited to reflect upon and bring more and more light, more and more love and peace inside of us. God, help us to be a lovely and gentle and sweet apprentices of your love. Right here, right now. Thank you once again for this opportunity. And Jesus, inspire and bring lights of love and peace to everyone that is joining here us today. That you all have a blessed week full of love and peace. Thank you once again. So be it. Thank you.